Hello, everybody. My name is Colin, and today we're doing a ranking on Quentin Tarantino's movies. Quentin Tarantino is my favorite director of all time. Just an inspiration to me. I love his style, the way he edits his movies, he directs them. I love the characters he writes. His dialogue, I think, is some of the best in all cinema. I just think he's the best director at writing dialogue, and I like a lot of the religious symbolism in his films. Just I love Tarantino. I love the soundtrack, everything about Tarantino. I love. I like the actors he puts in his roles. Just Quentin Tarantino. He's never made a bad movie. Everything he's made I liked. So today we're gonna be ranking my least favorite Tarantino movie to my favorite, and that's basically like least favorite to most favorite. I like all these movies. So yeah. Coming in at last place is my number 10, Death Proof. Now, please do remember this is based on my personal opinion, but Death Proof is, in my opinion, easily the weakest of the Tarantino films. And I really like the dialogue in it. I think it's really well edited. The ending, the third act, is great. I think Kurt Russell is fantastic as Stuntman Mike. Zoe Bell, Rosario Dawson, they're also really great. It just kind of meanders a bit. It drags. It doesn't really find its footing till that third act. But again, the third act's really good. And I've only seen this movie once. It could definitely improve vastly on rewatch, but I really liked the movie. I didn't love it. I could see myself loving it in the future, but as right now, it is definitely Quentin Tarantino's weakest movie for me. But still, overall, a pretty good movie. Coming at number 9 is Jackie Brown. I really, really like Jackie Brown. I think it's a pretty great movie. My only, well, it does drag a bit at times, and it kind of, it doesn't really feel like a Tarantino movie. This is definitely his film that, and you can tell like it's based off a book. It just does not feel like a Quentin Tarantino film. The dialogue, I do like some of the editing choices, and Robert De Niro, Samuel Jackson, Michael Keaton, and Robert Forster are all great. It's just, you know, it's just not for me. I still think it's a pretty great movie. I like the editing of it all, and when I say it's not for me, it's just like not one of my favorite Tarantino films. It's still a really good movie. It's not one I'm always dying to rewatch. This and Death Proof are definitely at the bottom for me. They're still good movies overall. They're just, not two of his best, but still, I really like Jackie Brown, and I know a lot of people love it and would actually rank it as one of his favorites, so that's fine. Now, coming at number 8, I got The Hateful Eight. Oh, I love this film. The cinematography is beautiful. The music kicks ass. The performances. I mean, Jennifer Jason Leigh as Daisy Domergue. I think it's one of the best performances in any of his movies. She was nominated for Best Supporting Actress. Part of me even wanted her to win, but she's really good. This is probably my favorite Jennifer Jason Leigh performance. I love Samuel Jackson as Marquette. I love Kurt Russell as John Ruth, the Hangman. Just the cast in this film is electric. It's got that classic Tarantino dialogue, and it also has that murder mystery vibe I love about it. And it's one of those movies that's where I can only really watch it in the winter because of the whole snowy, aesthetic of it. I think the music and the editing is also really good. It is a little too long because it drags pretty close to 3 hours, but I think overall it is well placed and it flies by for the most part. I have a few minor issues with it, and I do love the ending, even if some parts of the third act could have been executed a little bit better. I just think the cast, I mean, Tim Roth, Michael Madsen, even Bruce Dern, Channing Tatum's in it for like a few minutes, but yeah, just a great cast, and it's not one of my favorites, but I think it's his most underrated film. I don't think people give The Hateful Eight enough love. Now, coming at number 7, I could really go back and forth between Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2, but I'm actually going to go with Kill Bill Volume 2 for my number 7. In Kill Bill Volume 2, I think it has better character development, even more than the first one. We find out the bride's actual name, Beatrix Kiddo. David Carradine's really great as Bill, and I love his Superman monologue at the end, and it's really sad how after she kills him and then she goes with her child, I just think that's a very bittersweet ending, and it's a good end to the franchise. I mean, of course, Michael Madsen's great. Ellie Driver, who's played by Daryl Hannah. I mean, it's got a much lower body count, but that one kill in the movie with her eye, Jesus. Oh, so gory, and I love it. And I just really like the character development, and it's great. I kind of consider Kill Bill one movie, but it's technically two different movies, so I'm ranking it like that. Could really go back and forth. This Kill Bill is one of my favorite action movies of all time. So number 6, Kill Bill Volume 1. We're introduced to the bride. You have the fight with the Crazy 88 at the end. I mean, Lucy Liu is a great villain. Oren, she's great. Vivica A. Fox, Copperhead, she was also a pretty good villain. I really have no issues with the Kill Bill movies. I think they're some of his best movies. The dialogue isn't as good as it is in some of the other films higher. Like, the best dialogue of any of the Kill Bill movies is that Superman monologue. But, the action's fantastic, and I love the editing of it. Kill Bill is a masterpiece, and it's one of my favorite action movies of all time, actually. Coming at number five is one of my favorite movies last year, and probably in the last few years, and that's Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I mean, just such a fun movie, and I know a lot of people actually find this movie to be overrated. They think it meanders. They think it's kind of bullshit. They find it to be self-indulgent. I disagree with all those. I think the cast is fantastic. The story, it's about the golden age of Hollywood, and I also like the stuff with the Manson hippies. I mean, the film, like, I know it's about 2.5 hours, but it flies by for me the whole way through. I think DiCaprio is great as Rick Dalton. I'm glad he got an Oscar nomination last year. I think Brad Pitt as Cliff Booth is even better. One of my favorite movie characters the last few years. I mean, he deserved the Oscar win. I also really like Margot Robbie as Sharon Tate. I know a lot of people didn't, but I loved her performance. I mean, the cast, you got so many cameos. Kurt Russell, Al Pacino's about 2 or 3 scenes. He's really good. I just think the whole cast is good together. I love the music. It's shot so well. The filmmaking's great, and it has one of my favorite endings to a Tarantino film. I mean, just that last 10 minutes, beautiful cinema. That's all I'm gonna say. I don't want to spoil it for people, but the ending, it was my favorite ending to any movie last year. I'll say that. And some people even have Once Upon a Time in Hollywood even much higher than me, and I can get that. It's a masterpiece to me. I really love everything about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I just happen to love these other four more. Coming at number four, we got Reservoir Dogs. This is one of my favorite heist movies. I love the cast in here. Harvey Keitel is Mr. White. Tim Roth is great. One of my favorite Steve Buscemi performances. I just love how angsty is it. He's just very anxiety induced at times. Like, he's really stressed in the situation. Mr. Blonde. I mean, Michael Madsen gives a great performance. That stuck in the middle with you scene. It's my favorite scene in the movie. I just love how Tarantino. It's his first movie, and we're shown how he's able to mix violence and music in just such a great way. It's such an interesting and nice mix to do it like that. And I love the dialogue in this movie a lot. I mean, that opening scene, they're just talking about Madonna's song "Like a Virgin." They're really talking about nothing, but the way Quentin writes the dialogue, it's just handled so well. And just seeing these characters slowly turn on each other after a heist gone bad, it's such an interesting movie to watch because I think this is one of the most well acted films of the 90s. Just like all the performances around are really good. And yeah, I think it's one of his best films. Why is it not higher? Because of my top three. My top three, you're getting into some of my favorite films of all time. My number three is Inglorious Basterds. Now, Inglorious Basterds, this is one of my top five favorite war movies ever. I love the performances in here, like most movies on this list. Brad Pitt, one of my favorite performances from him as Lieutenant Aldo Raines. I love at the end when he says to BJ Novak, "You know something, Udovich? I think this might just be my masterpiece." Just, he's such a ruthlessly badass character, and I love him for it. I mean, Christoph Waltz as Hans Landa, one of the greatest performances of all time, and one of my favorite movie villains. He's just so conniving and evil, but he's also got this kind of likability about him. He's very suave. It just easily one of my favorite Tarantino characters. I love Shoshana. I think she's a really strong character. I really like her journey throughout the film. I like the opening scene is one of my favorite openings to any movie ever. It's my favorite opening scene to a Tarantino film. Yeah, definitely for sure. Just everything about the scene, the dialogue, how it's shot. It's a perfect scene to me. It's got a great ending. I mean, what can you say? I love Michael Fassbender. I think Donnie the Bear Jew, the scene with the bat, that's great. Just so many great moments in this movie. For some people, it drags. They want more action, but no, I love the characters, the writing, everything about this movie is great to me. Why is it not higher? Because my top two are both in my top 10 of all time. My number two is Django Unchained. It's one of my favorite films of all time. It's probably my favorite Western and maybe even my favorite film of the last decade. It's the Tarantino film I've watched the most. Leonardo DiCaprio as Calvin Candy is one of my favorite performances of all time, and my favorite Leonardo DiCaprio performance, actually. He was snubbed. I mean, Leo, and I'm glad he won for The Revenant, but I think he should have won for this in 2012, as much as I love Christoph Waltz as Dr. King Schultz. So if Leo didn't win, I'm at least glad that Christoph Waltz did win, because he was also really great. I love how suave he is. One of my favorite quotes in the movie is when Django says, "I like the way you die, boy." Just the action is great, the editing, the music. It's classic Tarantino. The dialogue is great. I love Jonah Hill's cameo. It's so random, that scene with the KKK. It's so funny and satirical. The ending, to me, I find to be really beautiful and satisfying. It's just a classic Western, and that, but it's also like a great Tarantino film. That's what I love about it. And yeah, for some people, it's not the most rewatchable movie due to it's about slavery. It's got a couple of N words and some really bloody violence at times, but it works for me, and I just love rewatching this movie. It's one of my favorites of all time, and I could easily put it at one. It's really between this and my number one. I could really, tomorrow, I could imagine just switching them back and forth. But at number one is one of the greatest films of all time, in my top five of all time, and that is Pulp Fiction. Guys, I could tell you so much about what I love about Pulp Fiction. John Travolta's performance, Samuel Jackson as Jules, Uma Thurman as Mia, the plot structure. It changed movies forever. I mean, Harvey Keitel as the Wolf. You send in the Wolf. Just it's such a quotable movie. I also think Tim Roth as Pumpkin's really good. I love how the opening is basically the ending. Just I love how the story's told, and guys, Pulp Fiction's a perfect movie. So many quotes I love in this film. I like the scene where Christopher Walken's talking about a watch he had up his ass. It's just so weird and absurd, but it works. Like Bruce Willis is also really good. I mean, Pulp Fiction's a perfect movie to me. The performances are great. The dialogue's all great. It's one of those rare movies where I can just watch and I love every second of it the whole way through. Pulp Fiction is a perfect film to me, and it is my favorite Quentin Tarantino film. Alright, guys, so that was my ranking of Quentin Tarantino. I'd like to do some other rankings of directors and franchises in the future, especially during quarantine. But as for now, I'm glad I was able to get this one out. So, to cap off my lists, if you didn't catch the whole thing, my number 10 is Death Proof at the bottom. Number 9, Jackie Brown. 8, The Hateful Eight. 7, Kill Bill 2. 6, Kill Bill 1. 5, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. 4, Reservoir Dogs. 3, Inglorious Basterds. 2, Django Unchained. And number 1, Pulp Fiction. Thank you guys for watching my video today. Please make sure to share it with your friends and make sure to give this video a thumbs up. And as always, subscribe. Let me know in the comments what is your favorite Tarantino film. And if you've seen every movie he's done, you can give me a ranking of every film you've seen from him. Thank you guys for watching, and I will hasta la vista.